I'm here at Damon's Hall in Essex to meet someone a little bit special. Mike Dentith has been an air display pilot for over 25 years and flown in around over 1,500 air displays all over the world, on 3 different continents even. And now I'm here to ask him what it's like to fly with someone on top of a plane. Hi there, Mike, how are you doing?
Hi, Vicky.
So what is it like flying with a wing walker on top of the plane?
It's really, for me, no different than flying with not a wing walker on the top of the aeroplane. I am so used to a wing walker being there. I mean, for all the years that I've been doing it, I'm just completely comfortable with a wing walker up there, because actually it doesn't really alter the way the aircraft flies, particularly anyway. To give you an example, the trim settings are much the same as you would have. Obviously, the climb performance is reduced, and obviously it's a drag. Having somebody up there is a drag. You were a drag.
Oh no!
But actually, I'm so used to it that I feel comfortable. I can tell the difference, of course, between somebody of your frame, ideal wing walker size, and somebody a lot larger. We're limited to about 13 stone and 6 foot-ish. And then you absolutely know the difference. You can tell somebody's fairly heavy up there. But ultimately, there's hardly any difference.
But what factors do you have to consider when you've got someone on top of the plane?
Okay, it's the drag more than anything else. The takeoff run will obviously be a little bit longer because of the drag. The rate of climb will be affected for exactly the same reasons. But today we had half tank of fuel. You're quite a light person. The takeoff run, for example, I was airborne in 300-ish yards. Obviously, kept it down, let the speed build up. I would have said a 50-foot clearance, for example, 500 yards, no problem at all. And then the rate of climb, roughly 420 to 450 feet a minute, as opposed to a normal rate of climb on this, which would be about 550.
Okay. So, like, when I was up there today, what sort of speeds were we going at?
You were roughly, once we got established, once we were up to maybe 300 or 400 feet, which is where I start the display, we were climbing at 80 miles an hour, leveled off, and we were around about 90 to 100 miles an hour for most of the time. Obviously, if I do a zoom, then I'm going down to maybe 135, 140 miles an hour. Most of your fly paths were 85, 90, 100 miles an hour.
So when you've got someone up there, because I know when you have the display people, the proper people, the experts, they do move around a bit. Does that pose any problems?
Not really at all. The only thing they actually can do legally is to climb out of the front seat in flight and climb up into the rig and strap themselves on, and the reverse of that. They can actually climb back in for the landing. And there is a bit where we do a flyby and somebody's standing not quite back in the seat, half in, half down and waving. I'm sure you've seen it. Again, it hardly affects the aircraft. What it affects is the person there, so we slow down. So averagely about 80 miles an hour. We keep the speed to around about 80 for that. It just slows down, and really I'm so comfortable with that, it's not a problem.
Well, let's talk a bit about the plane as well, because you've been flying these for quite a while. Why don't you talk me through this plane today? Okay,
I've got just over 3,000 hours in Stearman's, and I've flown the 220 horsepower, which is how it came out of the factory, with a Continental engine. And then for most of my flying career, I've flown the 450 Pratt & Whitney horsepower engine, which is, they call it the bull Stearman in America, because it is a big bull and it's heavy. And this one is great. This is the 300 horsepower Lycoming engine. And for me, and I've only just started flying this one this year with a wing walker on it, is the perfect Stearman. It's light, but it still has the horsepower. It has a variable pitch prop, so I can go into fully fine for takeoff. I can bring the prop back a little bit coarse. I can play with the prop to suit the conditions. This is the wing walking aeroplane. Stearman, big, heavy, comfortable, no vices. It's also got the double aileron conversion, which the average Stearman just has a great big barn door of an aileron, and you used to get ape arms to fly the thing around. This has double ailerons. It's delightful. All the controls are harmonized. Lovely aeroplane.
So would you say it's quite a nice aeroplane to just fly by itself, not even just with a wing walker?
Wonderful aeroplane. It's, you know, bless them, everybody's heard of the Tiger Moth. You know, that's the biplane. I'm sorry, it ain't. The Tiger Moth's a great little aeroplane for its time. Bear in mind, this was the same period. This is American. It's bound to be bigger. It's American. But actually, it flies beautifully. All the controls are harmonized, especially with this double aileron conversion. It's a lovely, not a go places aeroplane unless you're a really hardy soul, but it's, you know, on a summer's evening, you know, a couple of hours cross country, wonderful.
And also throughout your career, you must have had a couple of Hairy situations at all?
Do you know, I can honestly say that during the display flying, no, I've never had, because practice is all, and we were very, very conscientious about practice. Practice is the most important thing with any display flying. Learn a routine, learn it well, put it together in sections, and don't deviate from it. That's how. And, you know, every pilot you see, it looks all great, but it's actually very, very carefully put together. My most experience getting somewhere, going somewhere, cross-country, these are VFR aeroplanes, and you can't see a lot out of the front. So going to, bless it, Northern Ireland, which I incidentally love, it's an untold, it's just a great place to go. Sadly, the weather ain't so good. So some pretty hairy, low-level-y, grovelly, that sort of thing. So that's the only time I've ever been slightly nervous.
Do you need any special skills to be a display pilot?
Difficult one to answer that. No, I think quite a few hours under your belt in many different types of aeroplane probably helps. And it's a learned thing. I mean, I'm a pilot. I'm not a brain surgeon. It ain't the most difficult thing in the world. It's practice, practice, practice. Being fairly alert, having pretty good reactions, I think, is quite important. Other than that, I don't think you need any special skills. A desire to want to do it, actually, as much as anything. Like everything in life, if you really, really, really want to do it, go for it, and you'll do it.
What advice would you have for someone who did want to become an air display pilot?
First of all, I would say important that they learn on, it depends what they want to fly in a display. I mean, I'm flying a tailwheel aircraft, and I think that's a skill in itself. And if I had my way, every ab initio pilot, every new pilot should learn on a tailwheel aircraft. The great thing about that is, once they've learned to fly on a tailwheel aeroplane, Piper Cub, for example, Chipmunk. Chipmunk was the British Army trainer for years and years. You can almost fly anything, because you've got seat of your pants flying. It's not like a dear old Cessna, bless it, you know, you sit there, the rudder pedals are footrests. That's the way to go. Join a club which does aerobatics, join a club that maybe does formation flying. A plug for the Tiger Club here down in Kent, not far away from here. That's where I started all those years ago. Amateur flying, amateur aerobatics, amateur display flying, and develop on from there.
Brilliant. Mike, thank you ever so much, and thank you even more for taking me up.
No, my pleasure.
If you haven't seen it yet, I did go up wing walking, and you'll be seeing that soon, I very much hope.